Welcome to my channel Buzz. When Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes parted ways, their turbulent marriage stunned the world, but the subsequent events were even more shocking. Suri Cruise, their daughter, who was only a youngster at the time, slowly began to vanish from her father's life. No phone calls, no birthday visits, no indication of a father-daughter relationship, so people questioned whether Katie was to blame, or was that a decision made by Suri herself? Grew older. The backstage situation was not as flawless as they appeared to be, and now, the true reason Suri ended her well-known The Father is at last being revealed, and it's devastating. Come along with us as we examine the startling reality behind the strained relationship between Suri and her well-known father, and the reason it was never fixed. Although let's start by going back to the beginning of the Tomcats' adventurous beginnings. When the relationship started, it seemed like a movie. Katie Holmes and Tom Cruise were anywhere magazines, interviews, and read within 18 months. Carpets were married and had a baby. That's fast for anyone other than two well-known celebrities. It was significant. Tom Cruise was already well-known, star, and Katie Holmes was famous in her own right. But when they reunited, around that time, everything became even more bizarre. Same time, Cruise had some unusual public people continue to discuss his wild Oprah interview, in which he leapt on the couch, followed by the tense Matt Lauer interview on Today, where Tom quarreled on television. In both instances, prompted others take a closer look at his relationship to Scientology. In the meantime, the tabloids tracked their every action, written often about their connection. However, while everyone concentrated on the large headlines, many odd things were occurring in the background. Things that the majority of people were unaware and made anyone wonder how this marriage ever appeared to be normal at all. Let's begin with, among the most bizarre early moments, including Dr. Cruise, a baby, and a machine sonograms, chaperones, and himself. In April, Diamonds. Suri Cruise was born. 2006, only 7 months before to her parents' arrival. Married, but before to the wedding. Already, things were out of the ordinary in Barbara Walters. Cruise stated in an interview he purchased a sonogram machine for his usage. At home on Katie nowadays, the majority of people visit physicians for such matters, but Tom, he even stated that he intended to do it himself. He would give the machine to a medical facility when sonograms were performed at home are abnormal, particularly when not carried out by someone who is not a medical professional, weren't pleased with it either. Advised that an excessive number of sound waves could hurt the infant. According to some jokes, Cruise was seeking for something spectacular, such as determining whether Suri was the rebirth of L. Ron Hubbard, the Scientology's founder, is unknown for yes, but it caused people to elevate their eyebrows. After that, an odd interview Katie's work with W magazine, discussing how deeply in love she was, and declared, "I will always be with Tom in our honeymoon period." However, what was most notable wasn't only what she said. The woman seated next her was, according to Jessica Rodriguez, Holmes's, as a Scientology chaperone, she said nothing. For the majority of the interview, until the reporter inquired about certain rumors, said Scientology was trying to set Tom before he met Katie, hooking up with ladies, Rodriguez abruptly interrupted, saying, "In actuality, we don't read such kind of material, as it's simply impolite." Then she swiftly shifted the conversation back to how Tom and Katie were in love when the reporter questioned why she was there at all. "Oh no, we're just the best," she said. To conclude the interview, Tom he surprised Katie by giving her a diamond. She was instructed to open the Chanel necklace directly before the reporter. It was intended to be charming, but it seemed more like a scene from a movie rather than real life, and this was merely the start of things, and prenuptial agreements will get more intense. And since Tom Cruise is tied, there is baby drama. The Church of Scientology is very close to their marriage is hardly surprising, includes a significant amount of legal protection. Before the wedding, a spectacular prenuptial deal was made, but were you aware of it? That Katie's father, a solicitor, was the nobody helped put it together, is aware of every information, although some reports. The prenuptial agreement was so large that it occupied 5 boxes of bankers. That's not typical. Vanity Fair wrote about it, and other outlets, Some said they tried to guess what was in it. Katie would receive almost $50 million in exchange for, according to her and Suri TMZ, there was no one-time payment, but that she received $400,000 each year for child support. Additionally, Tom was responsible for covering all of Suri's expenses, medical expenses for school, college, and even her interests. Many people assume Katie's when his father anticipated difficulty. He made certain that when everything collapsed, she might leave without a word and without a battle. The strategy was successful. Their divorce took only 11 days to settle, after which there was the actual wedding, if the remainder of their relationship felt like a movie. The wedding was like something from a fairy tale, or perhaps a fairy tale with an odd twist. It took place in the 15th century. No local church, but an Italian castle people said that this garden was enormous. During its 3 days, it included 570 hours were spent creating the tear cake veil, create a display of fireworks that illuminated the sky. However, the most peculiar instance came from Leah Remini, an actress and former. The author, a Scientologist, wrote about in her memoir. She stated that she entered a restroom and seen 3 females, such as Tom's sister and worker, gazing at infant Suri, who they are simply resting on the ceramic floor, weren't supporting her, they said. Suri, as though they were speaking to an adult in need of self-control. Leah was astonished by it. That's not something that is typical of a wedding or anywhere, and their relationship is no exception. So did the peculiar public PDA, red carpet moments, and a very uncomfortable song when Katie and Tom appeared. Till War of the Worlds debut, they had already been engaged in 2005. The ideal moment for some red carpet action drama, and the pair gave it to them. Not only once, but repeatedly couldn't stop kissing. They repeated kissing so photographers could obtain better images, but it continued. Tom even kissed Katie there after dipping her, as if he were coming home from battle too. The public thought it was excessive, believed it was intended to demonstrate their love, was genuine, but some people only felt uncomfortable to witness. One reporter even made a joke about how it felt to see your dad kiss your stepmom who used to be in your math class, which is why the age disparity in conduct appeared to many spectators. Next came Katie's serenade at a charitable event in 2010. She sang Anything Lola Wants on Cruise was sitting close to the stage. It was intended to be enjoyable, but it didn't. Katie's voice was tremulous in that manner. She slinked because the dance steps seemed weird, all over the stage while Tom feigned shove her away. According to some, it appeared more akin to a high school production than an elegant performance. One spectator even made a joke about it. Appeared to be a sister pressuring her young brother to assist her in practicing. The energy was off. And the entire situation just served to the extensive list of instances in which Tomcat's public life didn't live up to our expectations. From genuine love, which is what created this connection, that was so memorable but wasn't only the romantic tale. It was all the odd things they all did in public, while everyone looked on and pondered. What actually transpired behind the scenes? Of which did you know anything? That Katie Holmes didn't just wake up eventually and leave her marriage to Tom Cruise's departure was meticulously orchestrated, similar to a moment in an espionage film. But prior to discussing that, there is an odd feature that is difficult to overlook: Katie's covert getaway strategy. All 3 of Cruise's spouses divorced him after were precisely 33 years old. As per New York Daily News, and Perez Hilton, 33, could play a significant role in Scientology. They say it's tied to the Hubbard's original location, the city's Association of Scientologists, the 33rd parallel. Nobody is certain if is that a legitimate explanation, or simply a crazy theory. What is obvious nevertheless is that Katie Holmes successfully executed one of the fastest and cleanest divorces, and she accomplished it in Hollywood without ever speaking negatively against Scientology or Cruise. She moved but remained silent in public, swiftly. And she left no space for she allegedly utilized burner phones in the fight. She had private meetings with 3 legal firms in 3 distinct states, and with that prenuptial agreement already in place, location where there was no need for conflict, funds, no alimony discussions, and no child support fights. All was covered. Perhaps the reason their whole divorce was done in just 11 days in 2012. That's quick for a celebrity split. Quick for everybody. If the game of divorce was Holmes played chess like a machine, serene, quiet, and one step ahead of everyone else, period. But her quietness came with terms, and what she consented to next. The quiet rule was even more unexpected. That following Katie altered everything. Most folks, Holmes filed for divorce, believed everything was finished, but behind the scenes, there was an additional twist. A source who talked to Radar claims that Holmes consented to a stringent clause online in her settlement with Cruise. This provision claimed that Holmes was incapable of embarrassing Cruise. She was unable to criticize him. It's not remarkable that Scientology for 5 years, she was not allowed to date in public. Years according to the agreement, she was permitted to, but not publicly, as of yet, and any knew the lover was unable to approach Suri. According to a source, she is permitted to date, but she is unable to do so in public. She should not allow any lover to near Suri. That rule impacted the way Holmes continued to live her life following the divorce. She began dating Jaimea Fox, an actor, but they kept it absolutely private for years, even when they denied the relationship, captured in circumstances that obviously looked amorous. They were once spotted getting. Another time, close in a recording studio, they were captured on camera strolling, hand in hand on a Malibu beach. But it was never confirmed by either of them. They even refuted rumors of a breakup. It wasn't due of the silent clause. Until those 5 years had passed, Holmes Fox might live with greater freedom. And by then, they had already been in hiding for years, away from the limelight. But while Holmes Tom Cruise kept things private and had his own difficulties, particularly in regard to his daughter, what transpired between Tom and Suri. You see Suri Cruise's birth date on April 18, 2006. Everything appeared to be full. Cruise even mentioned Suriri's love birth while speaking with 2020th, calling it mystical and strong. Hesiod, it was indescribable. It's still anything I'm keeping and processing, reliving. Later, the couple performed a large Vanity Fair interview in which they displayed photos of Suri's firstborn child. According to renowned photographer Annie Leibovitz, additionally, they discussed how much they're intended for their daughter, but that happiness wasn't permanent. In 2012, Holmes filed Suri was only 6 years old at the time of the divorce. The moment, and even though Tom claimed to be centered on his kids, especially his 2 adoptive children from his union with Nicole Kidman, things were not the same with Suri. Tom was questioned in 2013 in court while suing Bauer Publishing. The firm had issued a story that said he had abandoned Suri following the divorce. Cruise acknowledged in his deposition that, at one point, more than 100 days ago, he never saw Suri. That was between August 2012 and the Thanksgiving holiday. He claimed that they spoke over the phone last year. Despite the difficulty, he said, Suri was content and self-assured, but the lengthy distance asked questions during their time together. Later, that legal case was resolved. However, the discussion on Cruise's absence from Suri's life continued to go on. One of the main queries that people had were, did Katie Holmes quit Scientology? Tom Cruise will keep the church away from Suri. Scientology's position and the challenging truth. In the 2013 legal battle, Cruise was directly questioned about it, and for the first time, he made a very intimate response. He was questioned about Holmes's divorce. Him to shield their daughter from Cruise disliked the Scientology doctrine. I find that question, he said, offensive. I don't need to defend my daughter of my faith. Even so, when Cruise was forced to acknowledge by the attorneys, that was a contributing factor in his statement. That was one of the assumptions. Yes. He added there are many additional components to the divorce. He was also questioned about whether Katie and Suri were now regarded as repressive individuals. In a suppressive Scientologist is someone who speaks or leaves the church. Scientologists who oppose it are informed must stay away from these individuals entirely. Cruise didn't provide a definitive response. He stated that is a simplified and distorted version of the issue. I don't want to merely provide and simplifying religious doctrine too much. Despite all of his caution, it was obvious that something had changed, but Suri wasn't. Katie was no longer a member of Scientology, not included in the bond and the church. Slowly, between Cruise and his daughter, diminished over time. Holmes persisted in Cruise, on the other hand, raised Suri alone. Hand remained silent as Tom Cruise remained out of the picture. One thing was getting clear every day. Katie Holmes will do everything, Katie, to make Suri smile. Holmes has prioritized her daughter above all else. People magazine reportedly quoted her as saying that being a mother transformed her daily life. Most important thing to her is Suri's joy, Katie remarked. Being a mother has instructed me to simply let go of certain things, to give up authority if there's unexpected play, date or a modification in. She doesn't worry about her timetable. Rather, she asks, is this worth, will it bring a smile on her face? Bury. And she doesn't do it if the response is yes. Typically, Katie thinks a lot parents experience anxiety when they attempt to maintain a flawless schedule, yet she's discovered that it's effective to go with the flow. I believe it's better for her. And Suri need to loosen up on the expectations, she said. We're all trying our best. I learned that from being a mother, even keeps gift cards in a drawer at home in order to be prepared for any last-minute celebration of one of Suri's friends' birthdays. Little things like that show are ready for her. Her level of attentiveness to her daughter's world. Katie obviously desires to simplify and secure her daughter's life, and happier. And that gets us to the she has made every effort to safeguard, as you can see. Suri Cruise was. Her parents were born into the spotlight. The cameras and the big stars never abandoned them as soon as she was born. Suri became one of the most talked about the world's famous children. Katie Holmes was aware of that type of attention, wasn't he? Typical, particularly for a youngster in Katie told Glamour in 2023. What has been quite significant to me with my daughter since she was so well known when she was young age is I really like to protect her. I'm incredibly grateful to be her own parent. She's an incredible person. But this wasn't the Katie talked about this for the first time in 2020. She revealed to InStyle that she had visited on a website with a ton of pictures of babies of Suri images captured by the photographers. That moment struck her hard, she recalled. Strolling through parks in Suri at 6 o'clock the morning in order to stay away from cameras, Katie remarked. I wanted her outside, but it did not always function in a single video. Suri, barely 2 years old, waves at the cameras. It wasn't your typical childhood experience. The truth of being Tom Cruise's was that. Still, Katie, her daughter, did all she could. She altered her routines and remained vigilant, and always kept her daughter in mind. From peaceful morning strolls to cautious, selected interviews that she put a lot of effort into, maintain Suri's life as quiet and private as possible. Conceivable. And she continued after that. Katie also had a more ambitious objective in mind, creating certain that her daughter experienced a true childhood. Distant from the mayhem of Hollywood, providing a genuine childhood to Suri in 2017, Katie Holmes told. Town and her primary concentration was on the country, providing a steady and tranquil existence for Suri. My child is the most important thing, person, and her background is crucial to my work at the moment. She was directing, performing, and overseeing a busy profession, but she made sure to stay. Presently, it's critical that I'm present, and her pure and stable childhood. According to Katie, that was her best priority. Without a job offer or publicity, could perhaps arrive before that. Katie as well discussed how quickly children grow up. Every day they get more independent. And despite that being a positive thing, it, nonetheless, pains kids suffer a little injured every day. She stated that they were farther away from you, should be growing more self-sufficient, yet it's devastating. She anticipated that Suri would grow up and leave home one day, just like everyone else. Although children do, that didn't make it any simpler. That will be extremely depressing. Katie acknowledged to me that she is a single mother. She observed her young daughter turning transformed into a young lady, and she desired to savor every moment of it. Next followed the pandemic, and although it was a difficult period, additionally, it provided Katie with and Suri have a unique bond that strengthened over time. When the Katie Holmes was put under pandemic lockdown, and Suri Cruise were together for months in their flat in New York in 2020, Katie composed a piece for Vogue Australia in which she described what it was like at the time. Passions like sewing, painting, and writing emerged as a new characteristic of, but it wasn't, she wrote, satisfaction, just new pastimes. It was about slowing down and spending time with her daughter, to exist for a brief moment without the demands of outcomes, and rather enjoy the organic rhythms between a mom and her daughter, was the greatest, priceless present. Later that year, she additionally spoke on Yahoo to the Daily Telegraph. News and stated, This quarantine period has taught me a lot, she said, regarding preparing dinner together and savoring her alone time at home. Their relationship was lovely in its simplicity, was evident prior to the epidemic in 2020. On Suri's birthday, Katie posted a lovely Instagram message, happy birthday, my love. I feel so fortunate to be your mother for Mother's Day a year later. The day she shared a picture of herself kissing on the cheek, Suri writes, I am so thankful to be a mother to the most adorable daughter. In 2022, while she was being promoted movie, Alone Together, Katie shared Suri had recorded a new thing, rendition of Blue Moon for the film. Katie claimed to have a lot of talent. She recorded it after saying she would do it, and I let her do what she wants to do. Discussed Suri extensively in interviews, although when she does, there's always a lot of pride. She told LAUK via People in 2019. Being a mother in my 20s made me happy. Following their divorce, she and Suri relocated, to she claimed that they stayed in New York. Ages were properly matched. Each age at that time, the child was my age, has worked well, Katie stated. We somewhat grew up with each other, and through Suri didn't only grow during those years, she gained physical strength. Katie's self-assured demeanor was seen throughout the start. In an interview with, according to InStyle Katie, she came out rather, she's always been a powerful personality. She clarified that her objective wanted to assist Suri in becoming more authentic, to ensure she is completely herself and strong. Self-assured, capable, and aware of it, now that she's grown, Suri has passed past the Katie described it as a girly stage, and that indicates Katie has more time for artistic endeavors. Job once more, but the relationship they've formed stays the same intensely affectionate and abundant respect. But while Katie and Suri kept getting closer to Tom Cruise, traveled farther away in silence until one day, he had left his daughter's life. Why did Tom Cruise decide not to spend over 10 years with his daughter? Tom Cruise has since avoided his. Many others questioned why, but daughter Suri, according to people close to the family. The response is straightforward, and Tom has decided not to see Suri, according to a source. In Touch Weekly, Katie Holmes didn't own it. It wasn't a fight that led to the decision. Tom made the decision when Suri was just 6 years old when her parents got divorced. Katie was granted full custody in 2012, and she has since brought Suri up against her own over time. The relationship between both her father and Suri entirely faded, grew up without him in the neighborhood. No significant father-daughter moments during visits. Tony Ortega, a scholar of Tom's religion according to Scientology, this was no mishap. He informed Inouch Cruises, the greatest devotion is to Scientology, and David Miscavige, its leader, stated, it became more clear that Tom had entirely removed Suri out of his life, and even if Ortega might find that cruel, included a point that many people find agreeable. She appears to be a fantastic and well-mannered young lady. Prior to all of Tom spoke extensively about becoming in 2006, his father told Vanity Fair, My lifelong dream was to become I used to tell myself, Father, that my kids would know they could rely on me. That I would never make a promise, he continued. I couldn't keep my kids, but years later it seems the promise didn't last. So, how and what happened to that love? Did Suri react to being abandoned? After years, Suri Cruise adopts her own name. Of distance, Suri has already established a powerful and unambiguous choice. She no longer utilizes, rather than Suri, her father's last name Cruise, who is now known as Suri Noel, is the middle name of her mother. Katie Holmes is so in Suri's decision to respect the family member who remained with her, and she's letting go of the person who left. She didn't make this change overnight. Openly adopted her new name during her presentation of the Addams Family at the school. She played Morticia in a new musical. At her high school graduation, even more from LaGuardia High School, a renowned performing arts, art, and music. This wasn't simply a name, according to sources. Changing it was personal. She is demonstrating honoring her mother by utilizing her middle name. An insider revealed on page 6 added that Suri is concentrating on producing her own identity. Nowadays, it's evident that Suri is not attempting to hold having a father who failed to appear. Tom. He didn't go to her school play. Actually attended her graduation. He was observed during a Taylor Swift performance, the day following her significant occasion, and when she turned 18, in April 2024. However, he wasn't present. Either. He was in the UK celebrating at the 50th birthday of Victoria Beckham, and apparently working on Mission Impossible. At this point, Suri is taking complete control of her own path one, which excludes the Cruise namee Tom Cruise's silence and Katie. The answer from Holmes. In 2013, Tom Cruise was inquired as to why he wasn't hanging together with Suri was in London at the time for a Scientology gathering when Jack was being filmed. When folks in Pittsburgh inquired, Reacher why didn't he visit his daughter, was residing in New York, he provided an ambiguous he replied, pay attention when there's a things change after a divorce, and it's more complicated. He added, you must request authorization and arrange plans to ensure that things happen. Thus, it's not the best circumstances. However, many didn't purchase the justification. They questioned why a man he previously vowed not to allow his children accountable to find the time to go to his own daughter. A source recently revealed Tom was feeling the heat from the magazine. Feel bad for missing so much of Suri. Life. They indicated he hasn't totally shut, he does get rid of Suri from his life. Updated periodically, but even if he understands what she's doing, but he hasn't there. Not for her birthday, not for her graduation, not for anything meaningful in her adolescent years. In the meantime, Katie Holmes has made it obvious where she stands, fed up with the falsehoods, when the Daily Mail wrote a report asserting that Suri inherited Tom Katie Shutt's millions. It was quickly taken down. She shared a screenshot of the narrative and wrote, wholly untrue. You can stop making things up, Daily Mail. Enough. The paper mentioned Suri had a Tom's trust fund, and that he was funding her education, but Katie's post vehemently denied it. She didn't enter detail, but what she said was enough. If there was a relationship between Tom and Suri, it's long gone now a father's, Tom's absence and the courage of a daughter, according to Cruise's statement to Vanity Fair. Being A for him, his father was everything, so I would always be there for them and adore them. However, in regards to Suri, have failed to fulfill that commitment since 2012. When Katie Holmes got full custody, he hasn't been involved in Suri's life. And the more people saw him, the more he avoided them. Even Tony Ortega, a specialist in Scientology, stated it became increasingly clear that Tom had fully removed Suri out of his life. Over Suri's years of growing up without him, she has observed school functions and birthdays, and significant life events without her father around, and now that she enters, she's done something as an adult that says everything. She changed her name to become Suri. Noel has decided to make her mother, the person who reared her and provided protection, her and the person present during. She's not clinging to anything past. She's not waiting for her dad to appear. She is creating her own future, her personal identity distant from the Cruise legacy. As one source put it, she is committed to making her own identity, and it appears that she's without him. Are you doing okay? How do you feel about their relationship? Will ever be fixed, or is the separation permanently? Express your opinions in the leave a comment below, and remember to hit like, subscribe, and check back soon for more amazing tales from Hollywood's amazing history. See you later.